What's up, guys? We're gonna brobeatz. Today I'm gonna be going over how to add variation and structure your beats. If you guys haven't subbed already or turned post alarms, do so because it does put a lot. Let's hop right into it. So first thing you notice, I got everything out here. This video is gonna be a little different because I'm gonna basically talk about a lot of important things that I guess most intermediate to beginners should know. So we can go ahead and get started and not waste any time. All right, so the first thing I want to go over is just structure. So I'm gonna be brief with this because this is something everyone should probably know by now, especially if you watch my vids. But for bars, if you look up here in any DAW, it should tell you what a bar is, the measurement for a bar. So what I've done is broken this whole thing up, and this is the beat we made in the last video. So if you want to make it with me or something like that, you can go back and watch that and come back to this, the structure. So basically I'm gonna stretch all this out. This is the entire structure, like the most, it's not really generic, but it's like something you can follow. Okay. So I've mapped it out 8 bars by 8 bars. So every 8 bars, you should have something there. Okay. So intro 8 bars, pre-hook 8 bars, hook 8 bars, and so on. Okay. And then the pre-hook and the hook is basically one variation of the hook. It could be some with less sounds, as you can see right here. I just took out a kick, or it can have more sounds. It's up to you, and I'll talk about that later. And then now the verse and bridge. Now this is typical, and let me see if I can zoom in. And this is like typical, right? Really 16 bars for the verse, but most of the times there's a bridge, which is basically just like a really low point for like the artist to sing on or just vibe to, whatever you want to do on that part. For this one, I put mine before, but usually the bridge would go after, right? And this would be like the low point, and then it would kind of drop back on the pre-hook. Okay. And so on. And then the outro, usually I would just fade that out or something like that. So this is pretty much like the rundown on, and let me move this up, but this is the rundown on the structure. Okay. And this is all, I'm really not trying to do that many structure videos. So you can copy this and use this as yours if you need. So that's it for the structure and everything. Okay, so now we're going to talk about melody variations. I'm going to try to split this up so I can put chapters on it. But basically, you know, people have issues with figuring out what to put on the hook, what to put on the verse, how to make the melody, you know, how to split it up and everything. Now, this all depends on the type of genre that you're making the beat in. So if you're something like this, where it's more like trap, where the melody isn't too important, you can just slap on some effects. Okay. But if you have something melodic where like there's chords and melodies going on, what you would do, right, is now depending on like the intro, the verse and hook. So I'm gonna go here, and this is the melody we have. So I'm gonna just copy this over, and we can just act like this little part here is our like top melody. And then we can just pull these out so they're like chords, and we could just like move one up. So this is like what a melody will look like somewhat, right? So say this is your melody, you're finished, right? You're like, man, how do I, you know, make this a little different? Well, you could copy it over. Okay. And there's plenty of things you can do, right? You see people go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to like make the melody different. But in my opinion, that's just one full loop of a melody, right? It's just a longer one. Some people go up an octave, right? But what you want to do is add variation. Okay. So that could be something like this, right? And ideally you want to add less energy, so that you put this low part on the verse. Okay. Or you could just take this out entirely and use the chords as the verse part. And I'll be needing to delete this. Okay. So that's something you can do. You don't need to like split it up, or you don't need to like do anything extra, because to be honest, most people don't even notice. Only producers do. A lot of comments and stuff you get are probably from producers, not artists. And then as far as like effects, down here right now for a beat like this, and I'm sure most of y'all probably make like trap beats like this, right? What I did was just add like a halftime or just any time manipulation effects, anything that make it sound muffled, so that it just sounded different and had that low energy, right? You can see how it's kind of in the background. So I'm gonna just show you the preset. So it's the same presets from the last video. I just added another one so that it's a lot darker. So halftime, and then I just added some reverb to give it a little bit more atmosphere, just to give it room for the vocals, right? As you can see down here. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the melody. And now we can go on to like transitions and stuff. All right, now this is a quick one, and I just want to talk about transitions. Now, of course, you have like the sweeps, you have like those little sound effects and crashes, and those are the typical ones. But the ones that I want to focus on are the actual like placement of your instruments and drums and like effects. So basically, as you can see right here, I kind of swooped it in so that it feels like it's kind of going into it rather than just switching instantly. Okay, and I'll just play it. Okay, it's like it's kind of crossfading into one of another. And then another thing is the drums. Okay, so instead of the drums just being completely, well, I guess we could just use this, right? Instead of the drums just completely just going, the energy just doesn't change at all, right? So at the end, when you're switching from your hook to your verse, you can take out some drums, usually the pillars like the kick, 808, and hi-hat. And it'll kind of give the feeling of like a drop in energy. Right, and mentally you know, okay, the verse is coming or the hook is coming, right? So that's pretty much it for that, and let's move on to the next part. Okay, so now we have drum variation. Now this one's pretty easy, but a lot of people go too crazy. Unless you really know what you're doing, you'll end up messing up the rhythm of the beat or the flow, whatever you want to call it. And your job as a producer is to make the beat rappable, right? You want somebody to rap on it, right? So you don't want to go too crazy. You want to keep it kind of steady, and then every now and then add something. So what I do personally is I do one like variation. It could be like glitches, it could be chops, it could be anything that you want to add per section. So the intro and outro don't really count. So the hook, the entirety of the hook, I'll do one switch up. So for this one, I just took the kick out, right? And then for the entire verse, I'll do one main switch up. And what I mean by like a switch up, it could just be like any effect that you use, something that's super noticeable, not like me taking out a open hat or something like that, like taking out the 808 or changing the 808. So if I go over here, I change the 808. So I'll play it. Right, and that's something that you'll kind of notice, right? And then over here, right, in the verse, I just did one. Right now, if you want to go further, make unique, go into hi-hats. I think I did something wrong. Go into hi-hats, and you want to like mess around. Right, just mess around with it, right? So that is drum variation. Just make sure you be tasteful. Don't go overboard with it. Just kind of maybe do a few and then just leave it and let it just ride out. All right, so that's it for the drum variation. Let's move on to the next. Okay, so now we have like adding effects and stuff. Now effects can range from chops to just adding reverb. Literally anything you add, any manipulation you do to the track is like a switch up or something like that. So as you can see down here, right, I have these effects. And these is how I'm going to kind of explain it. So basically with these effects, same thing, you want to just be tasteful. You don't want to keep switching it up every 10 seconds. You just want to put it in there. If you're going to keep it in there as like an effect, do it. Just doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff sometimes can sound bad. So as you can see right here, the reverb, I kind of just let it play in the intro. Right, and the reason I did this is so that, because the reverb is going to kind of dilute everything, right? Make it ambient. But when the hook comes on, I turn it off and it sounds a lot clearer, which makes it sound like it dropped harder, but it didn't. Okay. I just removed the reverb. So over here, the halftime, you can see I just used the halftime as a verse effect on the whole thing. I didn't, put it here and then put it here, then put it here, because that's going to mess up the flow of the beat. Okay. So that's pretty much it for that. I want to keep this one brief because not too much to talk about. Same thing, just kind of keeping everything steady. We can go into the last part in the video. All right, so now we're on to the last part, and there are things that I am missing. You're probably like, why don't you talk about this or that? I'm on purpose not talking about some things because I want this to be straightforward, so everybody at all skill levels can literally have this down to a T, so they don't even have to look up another structure video ever again. And then from here, you just look up specific things just to build on it so you can get more complex. So with this, we're talking about the outro. Now with the outro, usually people just play the hook and then they just fade it out. As you can see, I took the master volume of the fader and it just faded it out. Right, or you could just build out, so by taking out some instruments like this and then just take out the basses, but I'm gonna leave these in. And you can get real creative, but one thing I do want to show you is basically chopping and screwing the outro. Now I'm gonna do like a dirty version of it because it takes some tweaking to actually do it right. Basically do halftime, okay, and I have mine in like a triplet form, okay, and then you can right click, create automation, and then at the end we get here, you can swoop it in and it'll do like a little like chop and screw, or a lot of people do this on like trap soul beats or like R&B beats where they switch the beat up. So I'll show you what this is. Right, something like that. Of course I need to tweak it to make it like on beat and stuff, but that's pretty much it. So that's structure. Hopefully I don't have to make any more of these. Hopefully it's helpful. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.